Good morning. Thank you for joining me in this morning mindfulness practice. Price Pritchett, in his little book, U Squared, tells us that most people operate with a mindset that assumes success comes one step at a time. The unspoken but popular notion is that we must move systematically from our present level of achievement to the next. And then the thinking goes from that stage, we can begin working toward graduating to still the next higher level in the sequence. Gradual progress. This is an unfortunate misconception, and it's clearly reflected in the way people function. Most people go about day to day striving to make incremental gains in their performance. That's pretty routine. That's the pathway of conventional growth. But Price Pritchett and my mentor, Bob Proctor, and I know that life simply does not have to always operate that way. Advancing at a measured pace, step by step from where you are to a little bit better, ordinarily feels easier, more natural, even safer. But in certain areas of your life, you can just as easily think in terms of skipping levels. You can move from your present level of achievement to one that is several stages higher. Directly, you can make a quantum leap. Price Pritchett calls it becoming U squared. What does squaring a number mean? Taking the number and multiplying by itself. 10 times 10 is 100. What is U squared? U squared implies an explosive jump in your personal performance that puts you far beyond the next logical step. Instead of accepting present circumstances or being content with gradual improvement, you go for a breakthrough. When you think about something that you really, really want and you go after it, sometimes it can feel like you're jumping off a cliff, and it's scary because we've been trained as human beings to fear the unknown. But what if what you really want is on the other side of fear? What if you just have to trust the universe, trust your guardian angel or your higher self or infinite intelligence, God? Put it in the hands of God and do the work. Do what you need to do in order to really get what you desire. That means not worrying about what other people think or say, not worrying about how your quantum leap is going to happen or how it's even possible to get what you want, but to trust that if you have a beautiful idea in your mind, it's meant for you. It's the coming attractions of your life. Whatever you can think about, you bring about, but you have to think about it as if it's already done. Getting into that energetic vibrational feeling of how you would feel if you already had your goal accomplished, something that you truly desire. You might have to think about why do you want it? Or maybe even saying, I don't know why I want it, I just want it. You might ask yourself deeper questions. If my life really was that, what I say I want, What would it be like? Sometimes we look at what other people have and we think we want what they have. But sit back and imagine something that you've been desiring, something that maybe someone else has that you think you want, a lifestyle, a certain occupation, a business. If that was your life, is that something you truly desire? Because if it is, you can program your subconscious mind so that you start to take the actions of the person that has the goal. You stretch, you move out of your comfort zone, you do things in a certain way, and that lifestyle does become your way of living. It's natural, it's habitual, it is just who you are. But that means stopping talking negatively, stopping doing things the way you've always done things. And as you start to really focus on it being a possibility and a probability, and then doing things differently, then it becomes reality. You can have a quantum leap in your life, and a quantum leap can come without apparent effort. These are high velocity moves that carry you to dramatically higher performance levels without the time consuming struggle that you always thought you needed, that it had to be hard. You got to let go of the limiting beliefs and allow the universe to show you how easy it is. Quantum leaps seem to violate common sense. The idea of jumping to that highest level. Price Pritchett says the idea of moving to a higher orbit and skipping several rungs on the achievement ladder in the process strikes people as far-fetched, maybe even outrageous. But once you have your dream already accomplished, quantum leaps may be viewed as practical, sensible, even obvious moves. But they typically do not come to you as the obvious move in the moment. Usually it's in retrospect that you perceive their hidden logic and elegance. Invariably, quantum leaps are not complex or intricate maneuvers. They tend to be simple, energy efficient, and time consuming. But the breakthrough demands a radical departure from your habitual way of thinking, your habitual way of getting triggered by other people's opinions, and your habitual way of doing what you do. Going for a quantum leap, it's not really a commonplace idea. People don't talk about that around the coffee table or in workplaces. Most people talk about how hard life is, how you have to work so hard and strive and struggle and force. What if you decided that you really wanted something and it was yours, and you got into that energetic vibration and started to think from the goal already accomplished? And then you got an idea that made you the multimillionaire because you got the idea and you took action even though you were scared. What if you really felt you were lovable, worthy, respected, you were feeling healthy and at ease, you get into a state of well-being. And then from that place, life just flowed. You still have to work, you still have to do things. You're not going to sit back and wave a magic wand and have what you want appear in your lap. But when you attain your goal, something that you truly desire, allowing the universe to do the heavy lifting for you, it's going to seem like, why didn't I try that before? This was so much easier than I thought. This is so much better. And then the funny thing is, you're going to want more. No matter no matter how much you have, you always want more. That's the spiritual side of you. That's the God in you wanting to experience the physicalness of life. The universe is always for expansion and fuller expression. You want to get into the habit of making others feel good, because as you radiate a beautiful, loving energy from you, you magnetize yourself. You attract back to you more love, more health, better circumstances. You attract what you want. I'm going to talk about changing your personal rules for success, and this is also coming from Bryce Pritchett's little book, U Squared. He says quantum leaps require paradoxical behavior, unusual moves, actions that on the surface often seem to contradict common sense. As human beings, though, we ordinarily go with the obvious. We fall into the habit of relying on behaviors that seem to have worked best for us over the years. When we take an approach that seems to be very serviceable and which enables us to perform well and succeed, we become very attached to that method, that behavior. We don't readily relinquish that habit pattern. In fact, there's a tendency to follow our favorite approach more and more often such that we get better and better at handling things in that particular way. But this relying on this certain approach results in our over dependence on the strategies and tactics that come naturally to us. And we resist new maneuvers because they make us feel clumsy, awkward, and more at risk. If you want to accelerate your rate of achievement rapidly, you must search out and vigorously employ new behaviors, new attitudes. You must be willing to break out of your routines in order to make the quantum leap. The things that worked for you in the past could very likely sooner or later lose their serviceability. But if your customary approach still holds promise for maintaining your present level of performance and growth, it may not help much if you want to go further, hit far higher achievement levels. And if you continue to rely on your old routines, maybe even leaning on them most when your performance flattens out or sags, you create a trap for yourself. Your most dependable behaviors that you've relied on them in the past can become major obstacles to your future success. It's possible for them to cripple your progress. Set up personal boundary lines to limit what you can accomplish with your life. You have to try a new strategy. It's going to take getting out of your comfort zone. It's going to take getting uncomfortable. Prepare yourself for a pretty wild ride. You're going to cover some unfamiliar terrain and encounter obstacles that you've never faced before. It can feel like the safety chain that's linking you with your behavior patterns that worked in the past is being stretched to the limit. At times, you may wonder if the situation is about to spin out of control. That normal reaction is you're going to want to hold on even tighter. You're going to want to hold on to familiar patterns because it feels more familiar, more comfortable, but you're going to have to learn to let go. U squared is achieved through release, letting go, releasing what no longer serves you, cutting ties with your old methods, your old thinking patterns. Don't be surprised if you grow uneasy. That's a predictable part of the process. When you take the quantum leap, you ride the situation, but you don't really control it all that much. Price Pritchett says the only way you control it is by, number one, knowing where you're going, and number two, continuing the pursuit, and number three, learning from your mistakes. When you make a mistake, instead of beating yourself up or stopping your progress, you have to just look at it as a learning moment, something that didn't work, so now you're going to try something different. Rather than deciding that your beautiful goal is not for you, you just spend more time imagining what it's going to be like to be at your goal, get into that feeling of the wish fulfilled, write about it. But the most important thing is going back to what do you want? Why do you want it? How will that change your life? And continuing the pursuit. A quantum leap is an act of faith. It's exhilarating and possibly scary at the same time. You have to give up a large degree of security and safety, plow through greater amounts of ambiguity and confusion and uncertainty. You're going to be wrestling with a totally new set of problems. Price Pritchett says, invite failure. Possibly you're going to have to contend with criticism from other people who have been part of your support group in the past. That's because they know you from their own paradigm, their own comfort zone, and they worry that you're going to get hurt, you're going to fail. Does that make you uncomfortable? That's a good sign. If you're not experiencing anxiety or discovering discomfort, the risk that you're taking is not worthy of you. It's not a big enough goal. The only risks that aren't a little scary are the ones you've outgrown. A high comfort level provides solid evidence that you're playing it safe. You're not growing. You're not really testing your limits at all. And you're not in the process of a quantum leap. You might be making gradual progress, but you're not going for a breakthrough. U squared carries you beyond your commonplace everyday habits. It calls for a little more nerve. So you can go into this expecting a touch of anxiety. Uneasiness is a predictable psychological reaction when a quantum leap is underway. It has been said that if you will do the thing you fear, death of fear is certain. Courage is not the absence of fear and anxiety, it is proceeding in spite of those feelings. So press on. If you look at the particular skills that you've developed over the years, the talents that you have exhibited, you will find that they are the gifts that you opened and enjoyed. You have many gifts that you've never opened. These are gifts of talent, ability, and reach that are yours for the taking. People that we admire, that we think are gifted, the high achievers, the persons that you admire, those are the individuals who opened their gifts. They have more gifts because they claimed them. They took them out of the wrapping and they used them. They let it happen. Now it's time for you to do something with your gifts. Claim them. Claim them and you create them. Reach for them and they materialize. Use them and they grow to serve you still better. If you look at those particular skills you have developed over the years, the talents that you have exhibited, you will find that they are the gifts you opened and enjoyed. But how many others are there within your reach? For every gift you've opened over the years, there are hundreds that you've never unwrapped and taken out of the package. This unused potential hides, waiting for you to play a role in your own quantum leap. When you make a quantum leap, you find out many new things about yourself. U squared is a fascinating experience in self-discovery. A transformation occurs in you, a metamorphosis. What is it that you deeply desire? Imagine it. Imagine becoming that. Imagine what your life would be like from that place. Bryce Pritchett says, think of a striped caterpillar humbly crawling along the stem of a milkweed plant a few inches from Mother Earth, changing into a strikingly beautiful monarch butterfly that soars high in the air and bravely journeys thousands of miles in its yearly pilgrimage. To become a monarch, to free those shining auburn wings, to fly high and free, that little creature must break out of the cocoon of safety and open its gifts. Find your wings, open some of your gifts. It's going to take courage. It's going to take a deep desire. Your life as a butterfly is totally different than the life of a caterpillar. The caterpillar cannot possibly even imagine how he's going to fly. You don't need to know how your dream is going to come true. You just have to visualize it until you get into ideas about what to do next. You will get ideas. They'll come out of the invisible ether. They will come from your higher self. You'll get a nudge, an impulse. Listen to your intuition. It knows what you need to do next. Take a deep breath in and get into a relaxed state of being. A relaxed state of being, living the lifestyle that you truly desire, the time and money freedom that you want, the loving relationships, the purposeful work. When you visualize using your heart and your mind, thinking from the goal already accomplished, thinking from the destination, being there in your mind to the point that you're affecting every cell of your being. What a wonderful experience. What a wonderful life. And writing it down, writing it as if it's already accomplished, not wishing and hoping and writing it out 100 times, but writing it from the perspective of already having your goal accomplished. As you write how it's already complete, how happy you are, how healthy you are, how fantastic life is now that you've accomplished what's in your heart. As you really feel it and you get inspired ideas, write down those ideas and take action as soon as possible, because your higher self, your intuition is giving you the next step, the next clue, and the next and the next. The breakthrough comes when you're in that state of being already what you want and acting on it, letting go of the how, trusting, having faith, and going for that quantum leap. It might be scary, but anything worthwhile is going to take you out of your comfort zone. How happy, how healthy, how well, how fantastic life is now that you've made the quantum leap. Create a wonderful day. Thank you for joining me in this morning mindfulness practice. Enjoy your day. I'll see you back here tomorrow morning at 7. Thank you.